I'm Gabriel Morency for Sports Interaction. We've got another wicked weekend of sports lined up. Let's get started. The Arena Football League of all places. Why the Arena Football League? Because the Orlando Predator cheerleaders are so hot and scantily clad, the NFL Network suits had to tell them to tone it down when they're on national television. It's too bad they can't do anything about the Orlando Predators' putrid offense. That's why I'm going to be laying the points with Jacksonville. Normally, I like to bet on the underdogs when I'm betting the Arena League, but Friday night, I'm going to be taking a look at the favorites. I'll also lay the points with the Shock. Spokane's the toughest place to play, toughest place to travel to, craziest crowd. They not only win, but they cover up there in the mountains. Now, speaking of winning, Steven Strasburg is now 2-0. He makes his third start, this time against the Chicago White Sox. He only struck out 8 Cleveland Indians in like 5 1/3 last week. Now, you've got to lay a price with Strasburg, and the Washington Nationals are not exactly a powerhouse yet, but they probably will be in a couple of years, and the national bats and crowd seemingly come alive. Hey, why wouldn't they? It's not as if they've had anything else to play for. So we're going to lay the price with Steven Strasburg and expect him to mow down another dozen or so Chicago White Sox. Interleague play continues through the weekend, and one of the more interesting matchups will be Manny Ramirez's return to Fenway Park. It'll be interesting to see how the Fenway faithful treat Manny. Either way, Dodgers, Red Sox, that's an interesting series. Now, speaking of an interesting series, the Ultimate Fighter finale concludes. Now, Jamie Yeager, arguably the most despised man in America, well, let's say after BP president Tony Hayward, but that's another story. Now, there's a reason Jamie Yeager is hated. Yeah, Dana White and the UFC need a villain. They found a villain for the house. Doesn't mean that this kid can't fight. And even though everyone's going to want to see him get his afro cut down to size, I don't think it's going to happen. And how about this kid, Chris McRae? He fought like 5 times in a span of 5 weeks. Real tough. I think he's going to be worth a look against Court McGee to get that 6-figure contract to fight in the UFC. Well, I really like Matt Hamill a lot against Keith Jardine. I'm hearing a lot of things about Keith Jardine potentially not being as healthy as he should be or as prepared as he should be for Matt Hamill. I'm going to be taking a look at Matt in this fight. They both need it. Matt Hamill coming off that so-called win against John Bones Jones. I think he's going to find out that life against Keith Jardine is a hell of a lot easier than it was against John Bones Jones. Now, speaking of easy street, there's been nothing easy about this World Cup. There's been an abundance of complaints and a lack of goals. But you notice what was the lowest scoring World Cup in history so far really exploded late in the week. 10 goals scored in one day. That's nearly a third of the goals that were scored in the entire tournament so far. I would expect more goals to be scored. I think the referees and the officials are going to start calling more penalty kicks, start calling less offsides, as we saw with Mexico and France. Now, it would be easy to say that France got screwed if they didn't belong in the World Cup in the first place. Now, ironically enough, the biggest story of this World Cup is what's going on in the stands, and I'm not talking about all those hot Argentinian fans either. Talking about the Vuvuzelas. And, really, what's the problem? Who doesn't like getting attacked by a swarm of bees? Now, Portugal should have more things to be concerned about than, what fans are blowing in the stands. Now, I love the sports special props. I always have and I always will. And I see there's an interesting one. Will Diego Maradona attack a media member with a Vuvuzela? That's just tough to say, isn't it? Or will Pele get caught blowing into one? How about will Pele get caught blowing a poison dart into Diego Maradona's head? Because Diego Maradona is seemingly talking a lot. In a Brazil-Argentina matchup somehow, wow. Now that would be special. I'm Gabriel Morency for Sports Interaction. May the winners be yours.